Forgiveness is really a state of mind. It's not so much an activity of forgiving a wrongdoing of another or oneself even. Forgiveness is an identity crisis and it's a perceptual crisis, and forgiveness is the answer. And forgiveness has already been given. It's been for you and given to you freely. So I think we really need to address with that question just exactly what forgiveness is, especially as shared within the context of A Course in Miracles, which is the pathway that I share from. So it's a non-dual pathway devoted to forgiveness. Now, there's so many Christian uses of the term forgiveness, and there's so much sacrifice often within those. And you should forgive, and you're bad if you don't forgive. And it's like you have a grievance and you should forgive the grievance, but you don't want to, and you don't want to forget, and you don't want to forgive. So we're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about a state of mind which overlooks the error completely, which looks at all the grievances, all the hurt, all the blame, all the stories, all the beliefs in violence and abuse and wrongdoing and victims and victimhood and victimizers, and says, I don't like what I'm seeing, and I'd really, really like to be wrong about it. And forgiveness, as described in A Course in Miracles, is coming to a state of mind where you see you were simply mistaken about the entirety of what you perceive to be a problem. You were mistaken about the entire thing. So I hear within this question there's some call to action. I feel compelled to act somehow. And I hear within the question a very, deep and vibrant desire to be of service. How can I serve when I see conflict? How can I serve? And some belief that passivity is not sitting very well with the questioner. Some idea of doing nothing is not sitting well. But what I'm asking for within this context and within this question is twofold. One is the desire to be willing to pause for a moment. And I can feel the questioner genuinely has that, a desire to pause for a moment. Now, we all have heroes like Gandhi and Martin Luther King and, Nelson Mandela. And they, at different times in their lives, both seemed to be pacifist and yet active in what looked like almost a rebellion, even if with Gandhi it was a non-resistance kind of response. But there seemed to be a response, an active response. So let's talk about the word passive for a moment as well. What you're being asked to do with A Course in Miracles and forgiveness, as it uses the term, is take total responsibility for your state of mind. That means the experience you're having. So if you're seeing something outside that's a conflict, you're asked first to look within at the conflict in your own mind and your desire to correct your own distress outside of yourself by fixing or changing something in form. So passivity here then gets changed to patience. You're asked to have eternal patience, because there isn't anything that you are to do in form. Activity may spring just as easily from a happy state of mind as it could from a hurt state of mind. So you're asked first to restore yourself to a happy state of mind from which what serves the whole can flow. And when we humbly agree that we don't know what serves the whole, there's no point in taking action until you've restored yourself to peace first, not after an activity is taken. So the invitation here is really to come into a state of mind. So it's to step back, just pause, come into presence, and look first at the upsets. And using a Levels of Mind on levelsofmind.com, which I highly recommend, tracing back those perceptual upsets through the feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and desires that are there to find what's really in disturbance. Because I guarantee you, once you look at what's really disturbing you, you'll feel very active in participating for peace in the only way that you can, which is your total responsibility for your state of mind. Once you are restored to peace, then any activity that naturally occurs and comes from that will be perfectly in alignment with what serves the whole. If you have not first restored yourself to a sense of peace, no activity that you do will help you come back to peace, because you're looking for the answer to the problem where there is no problem. You're banging on the screen again, like we said, of Jaws, shouting, "Don't go into the water," dun, 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 and maybe you could just switch off the projector. this is the invitation. Just pull back a moment, take a pause. Now I hear you cry, but what about activism, social activism? What about all the wrongs in the world? What about? Well, when the Twin Towers went down and I was in Ireland, and we knew many people who were in New York, and a lot of people were in fear and frightened and distressed, I simply said to them, and this is way before I got the course, I simply said, this is about forgiveness. If you are at war with your brother and sister tonight, what you can do is come to peace with them. Just try and find something within your own heart and your own soul to allow them to be exactly as they are, and allow yourself to be as you are. And not try and correct them or correct yourself, but simply see the situation as it is, and then want to be wrong about what you're seeing the situation is. So this is a perceptual problem that we have. And if you are one on a path of oneness and devoted to love and to seeing your brother as yourself, then the invitation, of course, is to take the mote out of your own eye and not see a log in another's. That's really the invitation we're going for here. It gets quite biblical, but it gets very aligned. It's like a razor's edge, a wonderful film from the 1940s that everyone should watch, some black and white Saturday afternoon. It gets very important to take back the projection and accept once. Number one, I'm responsible for what I see, and I experience what I would like to experience. So it's just very important to take responsibility at that level. And that is what people like Gandhi did when they spent time in prison, when they stepped back, when they looked at it and they said, I cannot go out there fighting something outside of myself. However, I can use the activity of this place in society that I hold. And for Gandhi, it's his birthday this week, and he was a lawyer. I can use this ability I have to speak clearly on behalf of the nation to align my mind for peace. And so he used to get very embarrassed when they call him Mahatma, because it's a reverential term. And really he had nothing going on for himself except this deep, deep desire to allow himself to heal, and to allow everything that he would have maintained as a self-concept to slowly, gently wash away by using whatever was given in front of him for healing in mind. And that's why it looked like the Indian question got resolved through what looked like an external passivity. But remember, you're talking about a nation who had been in a subservient position, and then we're taking a correction in the mind of remembering that there was no subservience. You're talking about people who came from a caste system, which were invited to remember who they were in truth. So all that you are being asked in this moment is to take a look at your perception and where the hurt and the distress really is in your own mind, and take the correction there. And then right activity isn't really the question. It's like, think the right thing. It's not about doing the right thing.